The most dangerous sentence in an emergency is not screamed. It lands clearly, over a speaker, through a radio, from a person wearing a badge. Please remain where you are. That sentence sounds calm, responsible, adult. And in the wrong moment, it can become a cage. In Stanley Milgram's lab, ordinary people kept using the shock switches. Why? Because a man with authority told them to continue. Not a soldier, not a prison guard. Just a polite researcher with a clipboard and a steady voice. The shocks were fake. The obedience was not. Now move that same wiring out of the lab. Put it in a school corridor. Put it in an office tower. Put it on a ferry deck. The floor tilts under your shoes. A voice from the ceiling tells you to stay inside. This is the authority trap. The moment danger appears, your brain looks for someone who sounds like they know. Not the smartest person. Not the safest person. The authorized person. A uniform is not just fabric. A badge is not just plastic. A calm voice is not just sound. To a stressed brain, they are shortcuts. And shortcuts are useful until they lead straight into a locked room. A normal office, gray carpet. Bad coffee, the alarm starts chirping. It is annoying before it is frightening. Nobody runs. A woman closes her laptop. A man checks whether the meeting is still happening. Someone laughs because alarms are always tests, right? Then everyone looks toward the manager. Not toward the exit, toward the manager. That is the first mistake, not dramatic. Not stupid, almost elegant in a horrible way. The group gives control to the person with social rank, not the person with the clearest view of the smoke. And you probably would too. You are there, your phone is on the desk. Your bag is under the chair. Your boss stands by the glass wall. Annoyed, not scared. You smell something burnt, but nobody else is moving. So your brain does what it was trained to do. It waits for permission. That gap has a name, pre-evacuation delay. The dead space between something is wrong and I am actually moving. In that space, people do bizarrely normal things. They save files. They finish calls. They look for keys. They ask, is this real? The body is in danger, but the social brain is still trying to avoid embarrassment, because walking out alone feels risky. Maybe it is nothing. Maybe everyone looks at you. Maybe you become the dramatic idiot who overreacted to a drill, so you stay. Not because you are calm, because shame is faster than survival. Milgram understood one piece of this. Most volunteers did not want to hurt anyone. They sweated, they argued. Some shook, they wanted to stop. Then the researcher said, please continue. And that was enough, because the words came wrapped in authority. Bickman's uniform experiment found the same crack in the mind. Same request. Different costume. The security guard got more compliance. Then a stranger changes his shirt and the numbers move. Now add smoke. Add a building where you have spent years being told which doors are staff only and which stairwells are alarmed. The fire alarm rings, but the old rules are still alive in your head. Do not use that door. Do not leave without instruction. Do not make a scene. The emergency is new. The obedience is old. Schools train this even harder. Raise your hand. Wait in line. Stay seated. Listen to the adult. Most of the time, that structure protects children. But under the wrong leader, the same training can become a trap. Fluorescent lights, a PA system, a closed door. A teenager in a classroom does not just ask, where is the exit? They ask, am I allowed to leave? That question can cost minutes. And minutes are not symbolic in a fire, a sinking ship, or a crush. Minutes are oxygen. Distance, clear stairs. On April 16, 2014, the South Korean ferry Sewol began to sink. There were 476 people on board. Many were students. Announcements told passengers to remain where they were. Stay put. Think about that phrase. It does not sound evil, it sounds organized. It sounds like rescue is already in motion. It gives the brain exactly what it wants. Someone else is handling this. But the ship kept tilting. Inside, the world became physically wrong. Floors no longer behaving like floors, walls becoming slopes, objects sliding, the body trying to calculate gravity, balance, fear. And over that confusion, a command: stay. For a young passenger, leaving was not just survival, it was disobedience. Leaving meant breaking the invisible rule that had followed them since childhood. The result was not panic. It was obedience under pressure. That is why the authority trap is so frightening. It does not need people to be foolish. It uses their best habits against them. Discipline, trust, respect, all valuable, all dangerous when the leader is wrong. Why does the same pause repeat in office towers? Because the building is not just walls and stairs. It is a social machine. After the World Trade Center attacks, NIST's analysis of survivor interviews found a pre-evacuation period where people searched for information, talked to coworkers, gathered belongings, and tried to understand whether the normal world had actually ended. They were reading the room. If others moved, movement became acceptable. If others waited, waiting became normal. If a supervisor gave direction, that direction became reality. This is social proof. Your brain may trust a room full of confused people more than it trusts the alarm above your head. And then comes another poison: pluralistic ignorance. Everyone is unsure. Everyone is watching everyone else. Everyone thinks the others know something. So nobody becomes the first person to move. You can feel it in a crowded room, the little pressure not to stand up, not to speak, not to be the person who breaks the surface. Now put smoke into that room. Your vision narrows. Sounds flatten. The body starts prioritizing simple cues. Not complex reasoning, a face, a voice, a uniform, a direction. Psychologists call part of this attentional narrowing. Under stress, the mind cuts the world down to fewer signals. And the clearest signal is not always the safest one. This is where the wrong leader wins. Not by shouting, by arriving first. In uncertainty, a calm instruction can reduce fear so quickly that the brain confuses relief with safety. Stay where you are gives people a script. It removes the burden of choosing, and choosing is heavy in danger. Because if you choose to move, the responsibility is yours. If someone tells you to stay, the guilt feels borrowed. It feels like theirs. Milgram called this the agentic state. A person feels less like the author of the act and more like the tool of someone else's order. In plain language, you stop asking, "Is this safe?" You start asking, "Will I get in trouble?" That is the lock clicking shut. The wrong command does not usually arrive with a villain's smile. It sounds procedural. Please remain seated. Return to your classroom. Wait for further instructions. Do not use the stairs. Everything is under control. Maybe it is under control. Maybe it is not. The problem is your brain likes the sentence before it checks the evidence. So the rule is not ignore authority. That would be reckless, and in many emergencies it would get people hurt. Trained crew, firefighters, teachers, security staff, sometimes they are exactly who you should follow. The rule is sharper. Respect authority, verify reality. If a command moves people toward a visible exit, it may be the right command to follow. If a command only says wait, while the room gets worse, check reality. Smoke, sound. The exit, look for physical evidence, not just social permission. Before you sit in a classroom, notice the door. Before you board a plane, notice the nearest exit, because in smoke, memory gets stupid fast. This is not paranoia. This is taking back the first 5 seconds. Because that is where the authority trap opens. Not after the room fills. Not after the corridor is blocked. It opens in the polite little pause where everyone waits for someone else to define reality. The alarm rings, the room looks around. A voice says, "Stay where you are." And your brain, desperate for order, whispers, "Thank God, someone knows what to do." Maybe they do, maybe they do not. The person who saves you may be the guard giving perfect instructions, or it may be the stranger already moving toward the stairwell. Or it may have to be you, standing up 1 second before the group gives itself permission. So ask yourself now, while the room is safe and the door is open, who owns your next decision? If this story changed the way you look at a badge, a loudspeaker, or a calm voice in a hallway, stay with this channel. The next emergency will not wait for you to feel ready. And neither should you.